Welcome to Starbound. My name is I'm Duck, and I will be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Freyren and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's episode. Frank the Tank Wilson stared at his phone, watching his bank account dwindle to double digits. The whiskey in his glass wasn't enough to blur the number, but he drank it anyway, feeling the burn slide down his throat. The dingy Euston bar smelled of stale beer and broken dreams. A TV mounted in the corner played highlights from a sumo tournament in Japan. Frank's jaw clenched. 2 years wasted in a foreign country, trying to break into a sport that never accepted him. Too aggressive, they said. Lacks proper technique, they claimed, as if being 6'4" and 300 pounds of solid American muscle wasn't enough. "Another round?" the bartender asked. Frank shook his head. He stared at his hands. Massive, calloused things, with fingers like sausages and palms hard as oak. Hands that could have made him a champion if the Japanese sumo officials hadn't been so damn traditional. "Suit yourself," said the bartender, moving down to serve another customer. Frank was about to leave when the TV caught his eye. The sumo highlights had ended, replaced by a strange advertisement with garish colors and bizarre fonts. "Galactic Slap Federation Earth Qualifiers, $50,000 prize, preliminaries tomorrow!" The commercial showed two men facing each other on elevated platforms. One slapped the other so hard he spun around before crashing to the ground. The victorious slapper raised his hands as an alien announcer went wild. "The hell?" Frank muttered, squinting at the screen. The ad displayed an address in Euston, some warehouse district just 20 minutes from his crappy apartment. Frank looked down at his massive hands, then at his empty wallet. A slight grin formed on his weathered face. Frank arrived at the qualifier venue the next morning, nursing a hangover that pounded behind his eyes. The warehouse had been converted into a makeshift arena, with a central stage flanked by temporary bleachers, strange equipment, cameras with too many lenses, lights that hovered without support, dotted the space. A registration table stood near the entrance, staffed by bored-looking humans in identical polo shirts emblazoned with GSF logos. "Sign up for the qualifiers?" a young man asked without looking up. "Yeah," Frank said. "What exactly is this thing?" The staffer handed him a tablet. "Just fill this out. Rules are simple. 2 competitors take turns slapping each other in the face until one gives up or gets knocked out. No dodging, no blocking. Just stand there and take it, then dish it out." Frank raised an eyebrow. "That's it? I just gotta slap harder than the other guy?" "Pretty much," the staffer said. 4 qualifiers today, semifinals and finals tomorrow. Winner gets $5 grand and advances to the Earth Championship next week. Frank handed back the completed form. "Hell, I've been doing that since kindergarten." The staffer finally looked up at Frank, eyes widening slightly at his gaze. Good luck, I guess." Frank wandered around the venue, studying the competitors. Most were tough-looking men with cauliflower ears and broken noses. Fighters of some sort. A few had the lean, dangerous look of military men. All of them had one thing in common. They were sizing everyone else up, like dogs in a pit. The opening ceremonies began with a video introduction of the Galactic Slap Federation. Frank learned that competitive slapping had been invented by the Pelmorians, a stocky alien race with 3-fingered hands. They'd brought the sport to Earth 5 years ago, and it was apparently huge across the galaxy. "Fighters, to the staging area," called an official. Frank's first opponent was a bearded man with tribal tattoos, who paced like a caged animal. "Brad Jenkins," he announced, extending his hand. "Two-time regional MMA champion." Frank shook it, feeling the man's attempt to crush his fingers. "Frank Wilson." "What's your background, Frank?" Jenkins asked, still trying to win the handshake. "Sumo," Frank said, squeezing back until Jenkins winced. Jenkins laughed. "Sumo? This ain't no belly bumping contest, big man." "Guess we'll see," Frank said, releasing his grip. Their names were called. They climbed onto the opposing platforms, facing each other under bright lights. A referee explained the rules again and flipped a coin. Jenkins won and elected to slap first. "Sorry about your face, fat boy," he taunted. Frank just stood there, impassive. Jenkins wound up and delivered a thunderous slap that connected with Frank's cheek. Frank's head rocked to the side, his skin reddening instantly. The crowd gasped, then cheered. Frank straightened his head slowly, working his jaw. It stung, but he'd taken harder hits in the sumo ring. He looked at Jenkins and shrugged slightly. "My turn," he said. Frank stepped forward, planting his feet, and let loose. His massive palm connected with Jenkins' face with a crack that echoed through the warehouse. Jenkins' eyes glazed over instantly. He spun halfway around before collapsing face first onto the platform. The crowd went silent, then erupted. "Knockout!" the referee shouted, raising Frank's arm. "Winner, Frank Wilson!" Frank looked down at the unconscious Jenkins, then at the stunned crowd. Guess he talked a bigger game than his face could cash. Throughout the day, Frank continued his dominance. His opponents grew tougher, but the results remained the same. One slap, one victory. Between matches, he noticed a beautiful woman with a microphone interviewing other competitors. She was athletic, sharp-looking, with keen eyes that seemed to calculate everything they saw. She worked her way through the venue but notably avoided Frank. By the end of the day, Frank had reached the qualifier finals. His opponent was Jimmy Waters, a former boxing champion with a granite jaw. Waters took Frank's first slap and remained standing, though wobbly. "Not bad," Waters said, blood trickling from his nose. "My turn now, big guy." Waters' return slap was vicious, snapping Frank's head back. Frank tasted blood but stayed upright. He nodded respectfully. "Good one," he said, then delivered his second slap. Waters dropped like a stone. As Frank was declared the qualified champion, tournament director Mitch Johnson approached with an envelope. "Congratulations, Mr. Wilson. Here's your $5,000 qualifier prize and information about the Earth Championship next week. Winner of that goes to the Galactic Finals against the Palmorian champion." Frank took the envelope. "The what champion?" "The Palmorians," Johnson repeated. "They invented the sport. They run the GSF. Their champion, Greg, has held the title for 12 cycles. That's about 7 Earth years. No human's ever beaten him." He smiled thinly. "But hey, there's always a first time, right?" Frank nodded slowly. "Yeah, always a first time." Frank celebrated his victory at a better bar, one where the whiskey didn't taste like paint thinner. He was nursing his second drink when someone slid into the stool beside him. "Frank Wilson?" asked a female voice. He turned to see the reporter from the competition, up close. She was even more striking. intelligent eyes, athletic build, a no-nonsense demeanor wrapped in an undeniable beauty. "That's me," he said. "And you are?" "Kelly Mitchell, sports reporter." She held up a small recording device. "Mind if I ask you a few questions? You made quite an impression today." Frank shrugged. "Sure, though there's not much to tell." "Why don't we start with why you entered the competition?" "Money," Frank said simply. "I'm broke." Kelly smiled. "Refreshingly honest. Your background is in sumo, correct? Why'd you leave Japan?" Frank took a sip of whiskey. "They didn't want me there. Said I was too aggressive. Didn't respect the traditions enough." He flexed his hand. "Wasted 2 years of my life." "And now you're a professional slapper?" There was a hint of amusement in her voice. "I'm whatever pays the bills," Frank replied. "Today, that's slapping men unconscious." Kelly's questions became oddly specific about the tournament organization and betting. Frank found himself wondering why a sports reporter cared about the administrative details of an obscure competition. "You interviewed everyone today but me," he noted. "Why the cold shoulder?" Kelly's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just saving the best for last." Despite her professional demeanor, Frank felt an immediate connection. She was smart, sharp-tongued, and seemed to see right through him. But there was something else, a cautious edge, like she was holding something back. As she prepared to leave, she paused. "One last question. Off the record, did anyone approach you after your matches today? Anyone unusual?" Frank frowned. "No. Should they have?" "These tournaments aren't always what they seem," Kelly said quietly. She handed him a card. "Call me if anything strange happens." Frank watched her walk away, equally intrigued by her warning and the way she moved. Frank's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better decades. He climbed the stairs, mind still on Kelly Mitchell and her cryptic warning, when he noticed his door was slightly ajar. He approached cautiously, listening. Something moved inside. Something not human. The floorboard creaked differently than under human weight. Frank pushed the door open slowly. His apartment had been ransacked. Furniture overturned, drawers empty onto the floor. In the shadows near his bedroom, something shifted. "I know you're there," Frank called out. "Show yourself." A stocky figure stepped into the light. It stood about 5 feet tall, with mottled grayish skin, and a flat, noseless face. Its small eyes regarded Frank coldly. "Frank Wilson," it said in surprisingly good English. "We need to talk." "Breaking and entering is a hell of a way to start a conversation," Frank replied, subtly reaching for a nearby lamp. "The Pelmorians have a message," the alien said. "Withdraw from tournament. It's not for you." "Not interested," Frank said, then lunged. The alien was fast, but Frank's reach was longer. He swung the lamp, connecting solidly with the alien's head. The Pelmorian crashed through Frank's coffee table, but rolled to its feet with surprising agility, pulling out a small metallic object. "The Pelmorians send their regards, human," it hissed. "You should withdraw from the tournament." Frank kicked the weapon out of the alien's hand and pinned it against the wall, forearm across its throat. "Tell your bosses I don't scare easily." The alien's mouth twisted in what might have been a smile. "You will." Frank's response was simple and direct. A massive open-handed slap that cracked the drywall behind the alien's head. The Pelmorian slid to the floor, unconscious. Frank stood over the intruder, breathing hard. He pulled out Kelly's card and dialed her number. By the time Kelly arrived, the alien was gone. Frank had stepped out briefly to call the police, and when he returned, the intruder had vanished, leaving only a small pool of purplish blood on the carpet. "They're efficient," Kelly said, examining the bloodstain. "I'm not surprised he was gone before the cops showed up." The police had been skeptical of Frank's story. An alien home invader? Sure, buddy. Probably just a burglar. File a report if anything's missing. "You believe me, though," Frank noted. It wasn't a question. Kelly sat on Frank's now righted couch. "Yes, because I've been investigating the GSF for months. That's why I was at the competition." She pulled out her press credentials. "I'm actually an investigative journalist, not a sports journalist." "Investigating what exactly?" "The biggest illegal gambling operation in this sector of the galaxy," Kelly said. "The Pelmorians use the slapping tournaments as a front. They take bets from across the galaxy, manipulate the odds, and ensure their champion always wins." Frank absorbed this. "So they bring in human challengers just for show?" "Exactly. They find tough guys who can win on Earth but don't stand a chance against their champion. The betting odds get astronomical, and they rake in billions." Kelly leaned forward. "But you're different. You're knocking out professionals with one slap. You're too good, and they hadn't planned for that." "So they want me to drop out?" "Or lose deliberately in the Earth Championship," Kelly confirmed. "Your visitor tonight was just the first warning." Frank considered this, then smiled slowly. "Well, they picked the wrong guy to intimidate." "You're still going to compete?" Kelly asked, surprised. "Damn right I am," Frank said. "Now I've got two reasons: the money and pissing off these alien con artists." Kelly studied him. "You'll need to train. The Earth Championship competitors will be tougher, and the Pelmorians will try to stop you any way they can." "Then I better get started," Frank said. "But I could use some help." Kelly smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." Frank converted his apartment into a makeshift gym, focusing on wrist strength, shoulder rotation, and perfecting his slapping technique. He studied videos of alien slapping techniques and noticed their different physiology gave them advantages, but also potential weaknesses. He called his old sumo trainer Master Tanaka, explaining his situation. Tanaka answered on the third ring, his weathered face appearing on Frank's phone screen. "Frank-san," he said neutrally. "Long time." "Master Tanaka," Frank replied with a slight bow of his head. "I need your guidance." Tanaka's eyebrows rose. "You left sumo. Said our ways too rigid." "I was wrong," Frank admitted. "And now I'm in a different kind of competition." He explained the slapping tournament. To his surprise, Tanaka nodded in recognition. "Ah, Pelmorian Face Strike. Very old contest. I've seen." "Can you help me? I'm good, but I need to be better." Tanaka considered, then nodded. "True power, not in arm or hand alone. Power comes from ground up, through legs, hips, shoulders, then hand." He demonstrated a fluid motion. "Eyes show intent before body moves. Master this, you master slap." Frank practiced Tanaka's techniques relentlessly. working odd security jobs to supplement his qualifier winnings. Kelly visited regularly, bringing intelligence on the GSF operations and his potential opponents. Their professional relationship developed to be something slightly more than that as they spent more time together. One evening, Kelly arrived with a folder of documents. I've identified all the Earth Championship competitors. The favorite is a guy named Rick Minuteman Stevens, ex-military, known for taking punishment. Frank flipped through the files. None of them hit as hard as me. No, but some of them can take a hit better than your previous opponents, Kelly warned. You need an edge. Frank stood before his bathroom mirror, thinking of what Tanaka had said about the eyes showing intent. He practiced his intimidating stare, the one that used to psych out opponents in the sumo ring. He focused his gaze, hardening it until his own reflection seemed to flinch. Maybe I already have one, he said. The Earth Championship Arena was a significant upgrade from the qualifier warehouse, a mid-sized sports venue with proper lighting, seating for thousands, and elaborate alien technology surrounding the slapping platform. The crowd was larger too, with a smattering of aliens along the human spectators. Frank dominated his early matches, his slapping power unmatched. Before each slap, he locked eyes with his opponents, his gaze boring into them. More than once, he saw them flinch just before impact, their focus broken by his intensity. In the semi-finals, Frank faced Rick, a mountain of a man with a square jaw and military short hair. Wilson, Stevens acknowledged during their pre-match stare-down. Heard you've got a heavy hand. Heaviest, Frank replied. But I'm more interested in that famous jaw of yours. Stevens smirked. Many have tried to break it. All have failed. The match began with Stevens slapping first. His palm cracked against Frank's face with enough force to make the crowd gasp. Frank's head snapped sideways, a welt rising immediately on his cheek. He worked his jaw, tasting blood. Frank's return slap rocked Stevens, but the ex-military man remained standing. For the first time in the tournament, Frank had failed to knock out an opponent with one hit. The next round, Stevens hit Frank even harder. Frank's vision blurred momentarily, his ear ringing. The crowd went wild as he steadied himself. That all you got? Frank taunted, though his face was beginning to swell. Frank's second slap staggered Stevens but didn't drop him. The man grinned through bloody teeth. Told you, unbreakable. The match continued, both men landing devastating strikes. Frank's face felt like raw meat, and Stevens wasn't looking much better. Frank noticed alien officials in the crowd looking increasingly nervous as the match dragged on. Before the final exchange, Frank summoned everything Master Tanaka had taught him. He planted his feet firmly, connecting himself to the ground. He aligned his body for maximum power transfer. And when Stevens stepped up to deliver his slap, Frank gave him the look. It wasn't just intimidation. It was psychological warfare. Frank's eyes conveyed absolute certainty, a promise of unconsciousness to come. Stevens, battle-hardened as he was, hesitated just fractionally. His slap landed off-center, losing some of its power. Frank absorbed it and stepped forward for the final exchange. "Thanks for the warm-up," he said quietly. Frank's slap started from the ground, power flowing up through his legs, hips, torso, shoulder, and finally exploding through his arm and hand. His palm connected perfectly with Stevens' jaw, creating a sound like a thunderclap. Stevens' eyes rolled back instantly. He spun completely around before collapsing face down on the platform. Silence fell over the arena. followed by a roar as Frank was declared the Earth Champion. Backstage, an alien approached, taller than the one who had broken into Frank's apartment, wearing an elaborate uniform with GSF insignia. 3-fingered hands clasped behind his back. He regarded Frank with small, evaluating eyes. "Frank Wilson," he said. "I am Krull, head of Earth operations for the Galactic Slap Federation. Congratulations on your victory." "Thanks," Frank said coldly. "Nice to meet the management after one of your goons trashed my apartment." Krull's expression didn't change. "A misunderstanding, I'm sure. Nevertheless, you have earned the right to compete in the Galactic Championship against our champion, Grak." There was a veiled threat in his tone. "He is most formidable." "So I've heard," Frank replied. "Tell Grak to start practicing his concussion protocol." Krull's eyes narrowed at Frank's direct gaze. "We depart for the Pelmorian homeworld in 3 days. The GSF will cover all expenses." He turned to leave, then added, "I would advise focusing on the competition and nothing else, Mr. Wilson, for your own sake." When Krull was gone, Kelly rushed in and hugged Frank tightly. "You did it!" she exclaimed, then pulled back to examine his battered face. "Though you might want some ice for, well, everything." "Worth it," Frank said, wincing as he smiled. "But we've got a bigger problem now." Kelly's expression grew serious. "I know. My sources indicate the betting odds against you are astronomical. They're taking in billions in wagers." "Then they're going to be very unhappy when I win," Frank said. Kelly touched his swollen cheek gently. "They're going to try to make sure you lose. One way or another." Frank covered her hand with ease. "Then we better make sure I don't." 2 nights before their departure for the Pelmorian homeworld, Frank and Kelly were having dinner at a steakhouse when Frank noticed his water tasted slightly metallic. By the time they left the restaurant, his vision was blurring. "Something's wrong," he mumbled to Kelly as they walked to a car. "I think I'm drugged." Kelly gripped his arm to steady him. "Can you make it to the car? We need to—" 3 figures stepped out of the shadows of the parking garage, stocky with flat faces, Pelmorians. One held a device similar to the weapon Frank had seen in his apartment. "The female doesn't need to be harmed," the lead alien said. "Just the slapper." Despite the drugs in his system, Frank pushed Kelly behind him. "Run," he whispered. "Get help." "Not leaving you," she hissed back. The Pelmorians advanced. The lead alien raised his weapon. "This will only hurt for a moment, human. Then no more slapping for you." Frank lurched forward, his drugged body responding sluggishly. He swung wildly at the alien, missing completely and stumbling past him. The Pelmorian laughed. "Pathetic." Frank used the momentum of his stumble to spin around, his body remembering Tanaka's teachings even as his mind fogged. His open palm connected with the back of the alien's head, sending him face first into a concrete pillar. The other 2 aliens rushed him. Frank caught one with a backhand slap that lifted the alien off his feet. The third aimed his weapon, but Kelly threw her purse, knocking his aim off. The weapon discharged, leaving a smoking hole in a nearby car. Frank staggered toward the final alien, who backed away in alarm. "Stay back, a human!" "Should've," Frank slurred. "Should've listened to your buddy." He closed the distance and delivered a thunderous slap that sent the alien sprawling across the hood of a car. Kelly grabbed Frank's arm. "We need to go, now." They barely made it to a car before Frank collapsed in the passenger seat, the drugs finally overwhelming him. Frank awoke in an unfamiliar room, sunlight streaming through wooden blinds. His head pounded, and his mouth felt like it was stuffed with cotton. "Welcome back," said a familiar voice. Frank turned to see Master Tanaka sitting in a chair nearby, sipping tea. Frank struggled to sit up. "Tanaka-sensei, how? Your friend called me," Tanaka explained. "Said you needed safe place. I have this training facility outside city. Old friend owns it." The door opened and Kelly entered with a tray of food. "You're awake! How do you feel?" "Like I got slapped by a truck," Frank groaned. How long was I out?" "Almost 24 hours, Kelly said. "The drug they used was powerful, some alien compound. You're lucky to be alive." Frank accepted a glass of water from her. "They're getting desperate." "Yes," Tanaka agreed, "which means you are becoming true threat." He set down his tea. "Now we prepare." For the next day, Tanaka worked with Frank intensively, refining his technique into what the old master called the Texas Thunderclap, a slap that combined full body rotation, perfect weight transfer, and explosive hand speed. "Force equals mass times acceleration," Tanaka explained. "Your mass is good. Now we maximize acceleration." Meanwhile, Kelly used her investigative skills to dig deeper into the GSF's operations. She set up a secure link with her media contacts, preparing to share evidence of match-fixing and corruption. "We can expose them during the championship broadcast," she told Frank. "Billions will be watching." The night before, they needed to return to Houston for the transport to the Palmorian homeworld. Frank and Kelly sat on the porch of the training facility. The Texas sky spread above them, stars twinkling in the darkness. "Thank you," Frank said quietly, "for everything." Kelly looked at him. "I should be thanking you. This story could make my career." "Oh, this was all a nice story then." She hesitated, then shook her head. "Not anymore." She leaned in and kissed him, softly at first, then with growing intensity. When they finally separated, Frank smiled. "That wasn't in the rulebook." "Sometimes," Kelly said, "you have to improvise." They boarded the transport to the Palmorian homeworld with the official Earth delegation. The ship was filled with champions from other planets, all headed for the Galactic Championship. Frank sought out these other competitors, curious about his potential opponents. Most looked battered and demoralized. A green-skinned alien with a crested head sat alone in the ship's common area. "Mind if I join you?" Frank asked. The alien gestured to an empty seat. "You are the Earth's champion." "Frank Wilson," he confirmed. "Clan from Sci-Fi," the alien replied. "I won our planetary championship, but it means nothing." "No one beats Grak." "Why not?" Klan leaned closer. His slap. "It's like being hit by a ship. 3 cycles ago, he killed a competitor from Regal. They said it was an accident, but..." He trailed off, nervously glancing around. "Every champion can be beaten," Frank said confidently. Klan studied him. "Perhaps. But ships break down too, yes?" He stood to leave. "Good luck, Earth Champion. You will need it." Upon arrival at the Palmorian capital, Frank was astonished by the scale of the event. The slap arena was massive, with seating for 100,000 aliens. Advertisements featuring Grak, a 7-foot Palmorian with enormous 3-fingered hands, dominated the cityscape. The betting parlors displayed the odds against Frank, 1,000 to 1. At the pre-championship press conference, competitors from 20 different planets were introduced. Frank, as the Earth representative, received polite but dismissive acknowledgement. Finally, Grak entered. Taller than Frank had expected, with broad shoulders and hands like dinner plates. The Pelmorian champion carried himself with supreme arrogance, barely glancing at the other competitors. "We welcome all challengers," Greg said through a translator, "but especially the human. Your species provides such entertainment." Laughter rippled through the alien press corps. "Would the Earth champion care to respond?" asked the moderator. All eyes turned to Frank. He rose slowly, deliberately meeting Greg's gaze. He said nothing, just locked eyes with the alien champion in an unwavering stare. The room gradually fell silent as the staring contest continued. Greg initially seemed amused, then confused, and finally, to everyone's shock, uncomfortable. The Pelmorian champion was the first to look away, an almost imperceptible shifting of his gaze that nevertheless sent a ripple of surprise through the audience. "Looks like someone's not used to looking their prey in the eye," Frank said simply, then sat down. The press conference erupted into a buzz of commentary. Kelly, posing as part of the Earth media delegation, caught Frank's eye and gave him a subtle thumbs up. That night, in their hotel room, Kelly reviewed their plan. "I've located the GSF headquarters. Tomorrow, during the preliminary bouts, I'll sneak in using these press credentials and download their financial records. We'll have everything we need to expose them during the championship broadcast." Frank kissed her. "Be careful. If they catch you, they won't," Kelly assured him. "I've been doing this a long time." But neither of them saw the tiny surveillance device positioned in the corner of their room, its lens focusing on their faces. The next morning, Frank awoke to find Kelly already gone. She'd left a note. "Gone to GSF HQ. We'll meet you at the arena before your match. Good luck." The Galactic Championship preliminaries pitted the planetary champions against each other in elimination matches. Frank's first opponent was a hulking reptilian being from a heavy gravity world. The alien delivered a powerful slap that would have decapitated an ordinary human. Frank absorbed it, his head ringing, then delivered a thunderous return that sent the alien crashing to the floor. Match after match, Frank advanced. His technique was improving with each bout, and his pre-slap stare-down had become legendary. The Pelmorian crowd, initially hostile, began showing grudging respect for the human's power and psychological warfare. But as the day progressed with no sign of Kelly, Frank grew worried. After defeating his semi-final opponent, he checked his communicator again. Nothing. A GSF official approached. "Mr. Wilson, a message for you." He handed Frank a small device. The screen lit up to show Kroll's face. "Congratulations on reaching the finals, Mr. Wilson. Your achievement is unprecedented." "Where's Kelly?" Frank demanded. Kroll's expression didn't change. "Your journalist friend made some poor choices. She's currently my guest." The camera panned to show Kelly bound to a chair in what looked like an office. She wasn't visibly injured, but looked furious. "Have you harmed her?" Frank began. "That depends entirely on you," Kroll interrupted. "Withdraw from the championship and lose deliberately, or your journalist friend disappears permanently." He smiled thinly. "The choice is yours, champion." The screen went black. Frank fought the urge to smash it against the wall. Instead, he sought out the other planetary champions he'd competed against. One by one, he told them about Kelly's capture and Kroll's ultimatum. "Why should we help you?" asked Klon. "This is your problem." "Because they've been making fools of us for years," Frank replied. "They rig the matches, fix the betting, and laugh while we dance for their entertainment. Time to slap back." One by one, the defeated champions agreed to help. Each had their own grievance against the GSF. Fixed matches, threats, blackmail. Together they formulated a rescue plan. The GSF headquarters was a gleaming tower in the center of the capital. Security was tight, but the alien champions knew the facility well from previous tournaments. Using their credentials, they created a diversion in the main lobby, a dispute between two champions that quickly escalated into a brawl. As security rushed to contain the situation, Frank slipped inside using credentials provided by a sympathetic administrative worker. Following directions from the champions who had been there before, he made his way to the executive level where Krull's office was located. Two Pelmorian guards stood outside a door at the end of the hallway. Frank approached openly, as if he belonged there. "The finals have been moved up," he said authoritatively. "Krull is needed at the arena immediately." The guards looked at each other, confused. Frank didn't wait for them to sort it out. He surged forward, delivering a powerful slap to the first guard that sent him crashing into the wall. The second guard reached for his weapon, but Frank was already in motion, his open palm connecting with the alien's face with a sound like a whip crack. Both guards slumped to the floor. Frank tried the door, locked. He stepped back and kicked it in. Kelly was inside, still bound to the chair, her eyes widening at the sight of him. "Frank, it's a trap! Krull isn't—" A side door opened, and Krull stepped in, holding a weapon similar to the one Frank had seen in the parking garage. "I'm right here, actually," the alien said. "And I'm disappointed, Mr. Wilson. I offered you a civilized arrangement." "Let her go," Frank said. "This is between you and me." "I'm afraid it's far bigger than that," Krull replied. "Billions in wages, the reputation of our species. Surely you understand we cannot allow a mere human to disrupt that." While Krull was talking, Frank noticed Kelly working at her restraints. She caught his eye and gave a tiny nod. "I get it," Frank said, taking a step toward Krull. "Money and pride, but here's what you don't get. Humans don't take kindly to being manipulated." "Fascinating," Krull said dryly, raising his weapon. "But ultimately irrelevant." Kelly suddenly lunged forward, still attached to the chair, ramming into Krull from behind. The alien stumbled, his shot going wide. Frank closed the distance in an instant, delivering a devastating slap that spun Krull around and sent his weapon clattering across the floor. Krull tried to rise, purple blood leaking from his flat nose. "You'll never leave this planet alive," he snarled. Frank's second slap knocked him unconscious. "What took you so long?" Kelly asked as Frank untied her. "Had to gather some allies," he replied, helping her up. "Did you get the evidence?" Kelly smiled triumphantly and pulled a data drive from her shoe. "Every dirty detail. Account numbers, fixed matches, illegal betting operations across 20 systems." They made their way out of the building, meeting up with the other champions outside. "The finals are in 2 hours," Clone said. "We have much to prepare." With the planetary champions' help, they formulated a plan to expose the GSF during the live broadcast. Each champion would be positioned strategically throughout the arena, ready to act on Frank's signal. "If this works," Kelly said, "we take down one of the biggest gambling scams in the galaxy and make you a legend." "And if it doesn't?" Frank asked. She kissed him quickly. "Then at least we go down swinging." The Galactic Slap Championship arena was packed to capacity. Billions more watched via broadcast across thousands of worlds. The announcer, a flamboyant alien named Blort, worked the crowd into a frenzy. "Sentience of the galaxy! Welcome to the ultimate test of facial fortitude. The slappening is upon us!" Frank entered to a chorus of alien boos. Walking calmly to the platform, Grack followed, entering to thunderous applause, beating his chest and playing to the crowd. The Pelmorian champion stood a full head taller than Frank, his three-fingered hands like weapons themselves. The rules were explained one final time. Coin toss determines who slaps first. Competitors alternate slaps until one is knocked out or surrenders. Frank won the toss, and to everyone's surprise, elected to receive first. "Interesting strategy," Blort commented. "The Earth Champion chooses to test his durability first. Is he brave or foolish? We shall see." Grak stepped up with an arrogant grin. "This will be quick, human." The translator rendered his words for the audience, though Frank understood him well enough. The Pelmorian wound up and delivered a thunderous slap that rocked Frank's head back violently. The crowd roared in anticipation of an immediate knockout. Frank's vision blurred, his ears rang, and his cheek felt like it had been hit with a sledgehammer. But he remained standing. Slowly, deliberately, he turned his head back to face Grak. A thin line of blood trickled from his mouth, but his eyes burnt with intensity. The crowd went silent in shock. "Is that all?" Frank asked quietly. Grak's confident expression faltered slightly. This wasn't in the script. Frank stepped up for his turn. He took a deep breath, planting his feet firmly as Tanaka taught him. He aligned his body, connecting himself to the ground, and then he locked eyes with Grak, pouring every ounce of intimidation into his gaze. The alien champion, disturbed by Frank's unwavering stare, showed the first signs of genuine doubt. His eyes shifted nervously, unable to maintain contact. Frank's slap combined his full body rotation, arm extension, and wrist snap in perfect harmony. The Texas thunderclap. His palm connected with Grak's face, with a sound that echoed throughout the arena like a sonic boom. Grak's head snapped around violently. The 7-foot champion spun completely around before crashing to the platform floor. Purple blood spraying from his mouth and nose. The arena went completely silent. Grak lay motionless for several seconds, then groggily tried to rise within the count. He made it to his knees before collapsing again. The referee, visibly shocked, hesitantly raised Frank's hand. "The winner and new Galactic Slap Champion, Frank the Tank Wilson!" The silence was broken by a single cheer, then another, until sections of the crowd, those who had bet against the house, began celebrating wildly. Krull, sporting bandages on his face, rushed onto the platform with several security officers. "This is impossible! The human cheated! Arrest him immediately!" As security moved toward Frank, he gave a slight nod. Across the arena, the planetary champions sprang into action. Khan activated a device that connected to the arena's broadcasting system. The main screens around the venue flickered, then displayed the evidence from Kelly's data drive. Financial records, communications about fixed matches, and footage of Krull himself arranging for attacks on competitors. The crowd's mood shifted instantly, from confusion to outrage. Many had lost fortunes betting on the rigged system over the years. Security guards froze, unsure where their loyalty should lie as the evidence mounted. Frank grabbed Blort's microphone. "For years, you Pelmorians have rigged these competitions, thinking humans and other species were beneath you. Today proves what happens when you underestimate a human." He helped the still dazed Grak to his feet. "This man is a great champion, but he's been used as a puppet in your gambling scheme." The crowd, many of whom had lost to the rigged betting system over the years, began to chant Frank's name. Krull attempted to flee but was blocked by several planetary champions. Within minutes, galactic security forces raided the arena, arresting Krull and other GSF officials for fraud, Frank was officially declared Galactic Slap Champion. In the midst of the chaos, he found Kelly, pulled her close, and they kissed passionately. "Not so bad for a failed sumo wrestler," she said with a smile. "I had a good motivation," he replied, gently touching her cheek. In the aftermath, Frank was approached by representatives from various planets, offering endorsement details and appearance offers. The Galactic Sporting Commission announced an investigation into all GSF activities and promised reforms to ensure fair competition. Grak, recovered from the knockout, approached Frank privately as he prepared to return to Earth.
"No one has ever beaten me,"
the alien admitted.
"No one has ever stared me down."
He offered his three-fingered hand.
"You have earned my respect, human."
Frank shook it firmly. "Maybe next time you'll be ready for a real match."
"Ha ha ha, I look forward to it,"
Grak replied.
"Though perhaps with less corruption surrounding us."
6 months later, Frank stood in his new training center in Houston. The Texas Thunderclap occupied a former gymnasium with state-of-the-art equipment and memorabilia from his championship victory adorning the walls. A dozen students practiced in pairs, working on their technique. "Power is important," Frank told them as he walked among them, adjusting stances and hand positions. "But what really wins matches is right here." He tapped his temple. "Our eyes, when you know how to use it, can make any opponent nervous. They can take a hit, but they can't take being seen for what they really are." Kelly entered, having just returned from a meeting with her publisher. Her exposé on the GSF scandal had become a bestseller, and she'd been promoted to lead investigative journalist at her network, focusing on interspecies sports. "How'd it go?" Frank asked, putting his arm around her. "Great," she replied. "They want to follow a book on the reforms in the Galactic Slap Federation." Frank smiled. "Good thing you're living with the chairman of the Earth Division." They watched a news report on the upcoming Galactic Championship, set to be held on Earth for the first time. The reformed GSF had implemented strict anti-corruption measures, and betting was now tightly regulated. "Think anyone will give you a challenge this time?" Kelly asked. Frank smiled confidently. "Doesn't matter. No alien can match what humans bring to the table." He gave her a playful, gentle slap on the cheek, and she laughed. Frank looked at the championship belt displayed prominently on the wall, then at the woman who had helped him win it. Life had a funny way of working out. 2 years wasted in Japan had led him here, to championship glory, a successful business, and the love of a lifetime. All because he had the heaviest hand in the galaxy and knew how to use it.